each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
Okay, we may have dropped him again. I don't know
Sorry,
what's going on.
I hit the wrong button on my phone. Sort of. I want to run the fastest that I've ever run in my life. I ran a 4:20 mile in high school, and recently I'm able to run a 5-minute mile. I'd like to run faster. Is there a way to tune in to good wishes of people and to spirit guides, and in addition to exercise? Of course, I have books by coaches and things, but I need an extra edge because I want to run faster than anyone my age, I'm 54, has ever run a mile before. The oldest person ever to run a 4-minute mile that we know of is Eamon Coughlin, did it at 42. Is there a way to tap into extra energy, to use telekinesis, to use good energy, to be, electrokinesis, somehow to have an advantage and advance my speed?
So to gain that advantage, you have to have the thought construct and transit from the lucid dreaming state to the manifest now.
Okay.
Dreamers and shamans have been doing that since the dawn of dreaming and shaman. You might have heard of the Kenya runners in the 1700s that could run 300 miles in a day off of a specific concoction that had like 20,000 calories in it. Things like that have existed in the past. The Inca runners who could go, 700 miles in a day, running at 20 kilometers an hour, 28 kilometers an hour. All that stuff has existed in the past. So to do that, it is entering the lucid state and training the spiritual body to have a much higher flow. And then to awaken from that lucid state and begin the movement process and return to that lucid state. Just as if you had 20 hours of work to complete and you complete it in 2, or get to work on time and you're going to be 10 minutes late and you still make it on time. Engaging that mind space to have the lucidity of the infinite dream world will make those feet move faster, and we have seen this done thousands and thousands and thousands of times through our history. How one chooses to enter and exit the lucidity will be the process of what dogmas or perception deception filters are in place that keep the staticness that says telekinesis and hydrokinesis and all that other stuff doesn't exist in our world.
That's so fun.
It's within the lucidity of dreaming.
I used to practice lucid dreaming when I was in high school. For whatever reason, I was like 16 years old, and all I wanted to do was figure out lucid dreaming. And so every night I would practice, and I would fly around and have sex with whoever I wanted, and it was so fun. And so I feel like I was just training myself for reality creation now. And Jen lucid dreams so much and does so many dream visits that she has to actually go to sleep and say, okay, I'm not leaving my body tonight. I'm not doing any dream work. I'm not doing any lucid dreaming. And I feel like lucid dreaming is one of the most important practices that somebody who wants to evolve their life could possibly do. So
Absolutely.
Now might be a good time to get to the 3 things that you want people to know that they can take away with them right now and get more tapped in and have a better life.
So I want to add a little something to lucid dreaming. It is the nature of shamanism to be the lucid dreaming. It's the same thing for wizardry, sorcery, any of those other mystical terminologies. And the same thing goes to science. It is in those lucid moments that intense clarity comes, that new theories and new concepts are brought forward that are accepted by the masses of millions. Lucidity represents, do you have the fullness of your choice points in dream world? Many people try to reach lucidity in dream space or engage it to a point where they have full control over it. In reality, we must understand that our sleep paralysis will also be a limiting factor. When we go into our natural chemical sleep paralysis to enter delta state and have that fullness of dream, we're engaging what I call the dreaming vehicle, where the I am presence removes itself from its seat of the power in the brain, returns to the heart, connects to the fullness of the DNA, and then moves from the heart to the intestinal tract and engages the dreaming vehicle, and then can perceive the dreaming world and interact with it.
Yeah.
The physical body is still very much a part of that. Lucidity is about engaging the physical body in sleep paralysis, so the sleep paralysis chemical process is undone and the mystical energy is flowing through the blood. That is how we are able to do those masterful things that we all want to learn or have seen done in the past. And understanding that lucidity process will be seeing the blood in the body flowing through its process and empowering it with the thought construct of running faster, beating the certain miles per minute, doing some form of something that was thought to be undoable in this reality. We dream it first.
Levitation.
And then we.
What's the difference between shamanism, wizardry, and sorcery that you said all have lucid dreaming at their base?
Majority of the shamanism side does not step on the journey of others. That doesn't mean that they do. Wizardry, sorcery has a different set of belief system that allows them to step on the journeys of others because of the state of awareness.
What does that mean?
Making choices for people in their unawareness or their blissful ignorance that guides them into a section that isn't part of their natural radiant blueprint of health, or down information that leads them away from their natural spiritual contracts. Awareness means responsibility.
Shamans do that? I've definitely known some shamans that were on the darker spectrum that have,
or the ones on the light spectrum that are dictators and don't even realize it.
Right. Okay.
You can dictate that it's the only way.
Yep.
Okay. They're still beings of light.
Is it possible to be in radiant health and to accelerate one's own healing and to de-age, to age in reverse physically?
Yes, I absolutely believe that, and I think there are thousands of examples throughout our history of people doing that.
I think you've seen two examples in the last week, Alex.
Okay, so how do you reverse the aging process? That again is about returning to the fetus in the mother's womb and having a companionship, because there is the infinite knowingness that actually created the potential of reverse aging. The infinite is there. It's a matter of how do we translate into English to create a construct that we can work with in the now that has manifest changes that not only can this individual see, but everyone else see. And it would be pointless if you're going to reverse your aging and only you could see it. Or would that be acceptable to you? Everyone has a different layer of when it comes to acceptance. Does it have to be in front of you, manifest in front of everyone to be real?
I see. And how does one lose weight best? How does one lose the unhealthy weight? How do you lose fat?
In a spiritual perspective, are you asking that from what
I'm
side?
asking in a physical sense. So 98% of diets fail, at least in the United States, and we consume with 4.5% of the world's population something like 80% of the painkillers. So clearly, we're doing something very weird with our bodies.
Okay, well, our bodies aren't in a natural digestion process. That's the first thing. The amount of preservatives in food, GMOs, and the variety of other things that affect our intestinal tract. Our intestinal tract is where we hold a tremendous amount of positive and negative psychic data. It is also where our dreaming body or our dreaming vehicle is housed. So when people gain weight and are trying to lose weight, they are, in a sense, trying to shed the negative things that are keeping them on the static and not moving forward. And the reason 98% of diets fail is motivation and belief within themselves. So what I would say, if somebody truly wants to lose weight, it's about returning the intestinal tract to its radiant blueprint of health, knowing that in the intestinal tract is 80% of our immune system, our dreaming body, and that beginning to cleanse that process and return to some form of natural food eating, limiting the amount of meat. And so there are some people that need to eat meat. And an understanding that you must make your food sacred, put your intention within it, and having that part of your daily manifest process will lower that 98% to 50% success instead of 98% failure. And then the individuated process of each diet will determine if it's right for some people. There are those that the Atkins diet, they lose weight super fast, but the minute they go off, all the weight comes right back on with each piece of sugar or carbs that they eat. Knowing thy body, planning an agenda, and having the ability to say, I can lose weight, and use the power of intention to influence the future you who may choose to eat that donut versus a salad. We as conscious beings must see our what I call residual image, that which has grown through us. I mean, you could look at pictures when you were 19 and still see the adult you looking through the face. We must see that radiant blueprint of health. We must instill it into every atom and every cell and use our belief and placebo to engage that sacred process of what? Bettering the self, bettering the environment that's around us, changing the way people interact with us based off their perception. Is he fat and lazy because he doesn't know how to eat? And all of these other projections that everyone has. Reducing the projections of others. So many people that are currently overweight now, it is literally the projections of others that have manifested that weight, and they have no coping skill to let go of that process. Thus why an entire industry of diet control and motivation has come forth.
Wow.
And
That's great.
Another question, how do you get smarter? A friend of mine who once made and then lost $800 million told me, sitting in a vegan restaurant in Hollywood once, Alex, you have the divine right to ask any question you want and get and to receive the answer. Do you think that that's true? And if so,
absolutely, 100%.
How does one access that ability?
I think you're born with it. I think that just be living here, you have that divine right to ask questions and have them answered. At a bigger perspective, there is a celestial mind sharing space with us in equal creation of spiritual contracts to experience us and share its reality through us. So that celestial mind becomes a medium to many different frames of time because we are all of our past, present, and future lives simultaneously existing, and this earth is the medium of that experience. And that medium can be asked questions through the Akashic Record, and the answers comes within our knowingness. How we engage our knowingness in internal or external dialogue will determine the level of companionship one can have with the celestial mind or themselves becoming the celestial medium, so knowingness is an inherent part of them.
I'm going to listen to this episode at least 3 times. So can you give us your 3 things now? I don't want to run. I want to make sure to get to those.
Sure. So the 3 things, I think the first thing that we all have to look at is how we share reality. The first thing we do is we all share the sun. And everything in our reality does is some form of spiritual photosynthesis. So it's to engage our mind to see our bodies as a being of photosynthesis, allowing the natural energy of the sun to connect to us and to us to acknowledge we are photonic beings of light, and that our memories are stored in light, and that this reality has many different ways of perception, and light is its basis. And I choose to engage my natural spiritual photosynthesis ability to draw in the energy so I can express more light, constantly transforming more and more light. That is what the sun is doing. And when we begin this process at emulation level to internal energies, where we are the sun, in equal co-creation on the scale of our being to the amount of light that's in this world coming from the sun. That first intellectual to spiritual manifestation will assist people at finding motivation, inspiration, a spark of the mystical. What I tell people is to do this process of sun gazing, except with your eyes closed. There are many sun gazers that believe it only should be open. In this case, it's the eyes closed because you want to engage the fullness of the being. So through your eyelids, the sun comes through and creates a red energy and engages our eyes to try to create a vision that go to our brain, and our brain, through its natural process of perception, engages that light, and that light comes into our brain, and we begin the visualization process, the simple thing of connecting the left brain and the right brain, so that it is just a globe of light. That globe of light then travels down our synaptic nerve endings, down our spinal column, and then it goes to every cell and every atom of our body until we are glowing of light. That is a way to recharge ourselves so the mystical can be a part of our clarity moments. That basic construct is probably one of the most valuable things that people can regularly do.
Oh, I love it. And what I love about what you just said, by the way, I'm doing it right now. I'm looking at the sound with my eyes closed. What I love about it with your eyes closed is that allows you to do it any time during the day. With regular sun gazing, you have to do it an hour after sunset or an hour before sunrise, or you're going to fry your eyes. So this is, and I've heard you can do it by looking at water.
Which I did as a kid. I have scar tissue from winning a contest of seeing who could look at the sun the longest, so I wouldn't recommend it.
Of course you do.
So the second thing is, as I've said before, is beginning the companion process of learning who the fetus in the mother's womb is. And there are a variety of healing techniques that take people back to traumatic times in their life. Like when you were most depressed when you were 19, and they go back there and they encapsulate the energy and they release it. Getting yourself to this inner co-creative process where your visualization creates your placebo manifestation of belief so you can engage the fetus in the womb. And what I say is tell it your story. Tell it everything you can absolutely remember about your life, and realize that you've gotten to a point where the fetus may have dreamed 80% of you, and it doesn't know what to dream next. This helps us literally change the very manifest goals that are around us. Fundamental change. If you want weight loss, go into the fetus in the womb who created that weight in the first place, with the spiritual contract of every Snickers bars you add that added 5 pounds in a month. Okay? And you engage that fetus in the womb and say, I want to change the resonance process, truly change the being that I am. And I am choosing to go to my ancient past self, the fetus in the womb, as the ancient future self, and tell them my entire story. So we're completing a connection of time. So the fetus, who was the original heart from the uncoding of the DNA, is still you, the heart that is in you now. It is the same muscle that has grown through that process. This second thing, getting that companionship, telling the story, and knowing thyself will give you a far greater way of dealing with the dogmas and deception filters of others in the world. It'll assist you at letting go of their traumas that are projected at you, so you can stay a manifest being of the now, not having your life force siphoned off by millions of project people. The third thing I will say is dreaming, is learning how to create mass visualization processes for yourself. And then as you create those, you fall asleep and enter the lucid dream. Teachers since the dawn of time have been trying to teach this. So these three things are not new, but the way in which one does them. Because when you are you have a companion and a fetus in the womb, you can dream with them. And when the physical body isn't manifest with the dogmas of the shared reality and we're just in the dream world, you can create an infinite amount of more of thought constructs that you can wake up with, do something with, actually have in your knowingness that there's a new form of science or a new music that you can bring because you've had your divine self interconnection.
Whoa. Oh, this is so good. And all this is stuff that I love that you said that this is all stuff that people have been trying to teach forever. This is all stuff that I've had on my to-do list and I've either done for months at a time and then forgot about, and then it's really a good reminder to dive back in, except for the fetus one. I've never done that except for after you told me to at our reading. And It was good. It was fun.
Have you been able to go back to the fetus and really engage it?
Yeah, I had a great conversation with my fetus, with me as a fetus, and the one that I had a really hard time doing was going back to me at a young age and remembering my past at like years old, right? And I was staring at a picture of myself at 2 years old for probably 45 minutes, communicating with him and just trying to remember like the base things that I needed at that age, right? Like my 2-year-old is like, you want food. Like what kind of food did I like? What was my blankie that I have? What was my stuffed animal, right? Yeah, so that was a little harder for me. But the fetus one was fun. It was interesting. I mean, the fetus one, it seems like you can imagine and create. And I guess you can do that with the 2-year-old too. But yeah, the more you allow yourself to imagine, the more real it becomes.
The reality for a fetus all the way up into 2 years old is very different than what we experience. And just by having kids, you know that. You can look at them.
They're on mushrooms all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Alex, do you have any last questions for him?
Yes, I do. What is the purpose of our incarnation, and is reincarnation real? And how does it work? I mean, how what's the mechanism behind making it work? And do we choose to be a disembodied entity versus an embodied entity, or is this chosen for us, or does that vary based on things? And is karma real? Do we build merit by doing good deeds that then affects our future lifetimes?
So that is a all-encompassing karmatic question. So I have an answer for it. So karma, as an expression, is an exchange of positive or negative polarity and charge from one lifetime to another lifetime. And it can be a collective group of soul families that create a set of positive karma that are passed on to future generations, or negative karmas that are passed on to future generations. Reincarnation is something that is not natural to our system. It was something imported here via off-world beings 31 million years ago. And since that time, we've had a dual belief structure system of incarnation or reincarnation. Reincarnation is a system that has a variety of hierarchical beings, both positive, negative, and neutral, guiding beings through chaotic evolution because they have a set of higher soul contracts that they will experience free will here at its most fullest level. And then when they are finished experiencing full free will at its fullest level, they will go through an expansion process or a golden age process where they can let go of karma itself as an expression of exchanging spiritual debt. That beings will be free of karma as the universal expression of what we have done as positive or negative. We'll be able to share the fullness of our Akashic record through telepathic connection and not be limited to that of the verbal connection. Reincarnation, as I said, was imported here, and it has been used as a tool for domination and control, something we are experiencing in this world of duality and separation. Right. In one perspective, to force people through evolution, and another perspective, to allow them the fullness of understanding what free will is. Direct incarnating beings are ones who have left the incarnational grid in the hierarchical system within that, and have found a pod of people in the astral world. They get an immigration date, and they're born into a local town, local city, and then they begin to meet each other and create new forms of consciousness, new movements, science, math, music, etc., etc. And they, too, are still in the soup of people who are in reincarnation. And oftentimes they find themselves entangled with those people of previous lifetimes who are holding debt and spiritual contracts from 5,000 or 10,000 years ago. And all of a sudden you meet those people in the presence of now. As an incarnating being, you have to make a choice. Do I want to share my reality with something that is in the separation and in the duality, or do I not want to? Most people in their unknowingness now don't realize the soup of creation that's going on. You have incarnating and reincarnating belief system beings in a shared realities rule system that is constantly sharing the pollution of previous spiritual debt. This previous spiritual debt has gotten to a point where our money system has become what I call the Babylonian money curse, meaning money is trying to affect our life review and how positive we have affected this world. karma and money have been related in the last 2,000 years to a point where the astral world beings begin to plan contracts based around money. And the system of domination and control, which has powerful esoteric practitioners and dogmatic belief systems behind it, try to force the creation of laws that interweave with our spiritual contracts of beings of reincarnation or direct incarnation. To be a direct incarnating being means you have gone through the reincarnation system, done the very negative lifetimes, repaid the debt that you may have created in previous ancestorships, and also understand you do not have to take on the debt of others. That is the bigger choice of free will, and why we are living in a system that has both karma as debt exchange, both positive and negative, and non-karmic exchange, which is the base exchanging of knowledge through the full empathic transference of who we are. Does that answer your question?
That was a wonderful answer. Thank you so much. I have one last question.
Yeah, I want to hear more about that one, but it was good.
I like to say, as we discussed, but while we were setting up this conversation that you and I and Ben are having, that the quality of your life is determined by the quality and quantity and variety of the questions that you ask and answer. Is that true?
Does our quality of life? Yes, it does. Because quality of life is about knowing when knowingness expands, as well as allowing the mystical to be a part of your co-creation. So yes, it does. And there's just different perceptions within the evolution of that inside yourself that help us unlock, unpack, or uncode or decipher light, which is all of the information in it. It's a matter of can we translate it into our knowingness, into English, that adds to the quality of life. Because there's information that is clearly weaponized, that is meant to take away from the quality of life. Example, the Trump stuff right now. Is that really adding quality of life to people right now? No. Is anything within the political system adding to the quality of life? Has any vote in the last 20 years actually changed and added to the full quality of life of the individuals manifest? No.
So
is that a judgment?
I want to ask you a quick question about that. So, the way that I've been looking at voting, right, isn't that it's, our vote may have zero effect in the physical. Like if I go cast my ballot, that may not actually shift any election at all. But I feel like there is an energy to the vote for the majority of people creating unconsciously with their energetic vote of their free will choice of I want it to go this way, I'm demanding that it goes this way.
Except you cannot work within their fiction. You see, there are esoteric practitioners that have guided, shaped, and created our political system. And voting is tacit consent for 4 more years of your energy for them to do it their way. 505 representatives do not represent 370 million people.
Right.
Even if you had 10% full representation, it wouldn't represent everyone's views. That is the basic fallacy of our
right.
government.
I agree.
So it's just giving tacit consent for the hierarchical system to continue to define our quality of life, and instead of allowing each individual human being to determine the quality of their own life.
Okay, so do you feel like people would have more of an effect? Like let's say 100% of the people were going to vote for somebody that wasn't our 2 main candidates, right? 100%. So the facetious system could say, okay, we're going to create something, but all those people could energetically say, and then therefore physically say, no, I choose something different. I choose something new as a way of bringing it into the physical and getting out of the system. So would it be more effective for all those people to go and vote in physical or just stay home and affect the system?
stay home and take your energy back from the system. Take your power of choice back from the system. As I was saying before, there's esoteric practitioners who have a greater understanding of science and consciousness. Just as the Super Bowl is an Illuminati cabal ritual of observation, so is our voting process. It is a ritual dark magic process designed to steal your power, to empower a system so that the money has your belief behind it. Money is just a digital object. There's no gold backing it anymore. All of our belief system is just in this digital currency. And our empowerment through tacit consent and voting still gives that power so that the people with the bullets still have the ability to manifest killing you. So, again, a different perspective, taking your power back from the system so the system cannot define our lives through the prediction-based contracts of who we vote for.
Okay. So once we remove our energy from the system, then does the system all of a sudden collapse, or do they say, okay,
no,
100 people voted? We have to stop it from
harvesting. No, we have to stop it from harvesting us. It is constantly harvesting our energy. So that it doesn't have to use its own energy.
I know most of the people in the U.S. aren't going to do this. They're not going to just stop voting, and they're probably not going to have a consciousness to go. I
love what you're saying, and I love what you're saying, and Andrew, and I felt the truth of this. What I had said on, I told people on Facebook is I came up with a 50-point plan, and I said that I was going to write my own name in on the ballot. Is that a way of taking my power back?
No, because it is still a dark magic ritual created 200 years ago by those people who were going to shape and guide the creation of our world with their own esoteric dogmas and singular beliefs that didn't care about the rest of the people in the world. It is still a system that does not recognize the rest of the sentient living in this world, the way we treat our animal, our cattle. You look at our own laws, human beings are labeled as commerce and chattel. We do not own our bodies. And that is what the laws actually say. And if the manifest laws say that, we cannot play within that fiction. We must retract it at all levels. What we can do during that day is create our own esoteric ritual that takes back all of the energy in every voting we have ever done so that the aggregate energy that the system has can no longer be projected back at us or any of our brothers or sisters.
That's what we're doing at our Shamanism retreat with Satya. That's great. So what is the small minority of us that have the awareness we can do that ritual. Do we need
It's not a small minority. It's not a small minority. That's why I created those contract revocations. One for government, banking, media, masculine and feminine. Anyone can do it. It's a matter of understanding once you have your power back, there are a variety of systems that are always siphoning it off of you. That inherent belief that death and taxes, well, that's something we have to extricate from our belief system. There are a variety of other things that keep us in the infrastructure of distraction entangled into the siphoning process of through tacit consent. We must see the credit card bill, the cell phone bill, all of things that are contracts bringing us back into the giving away of our power. We must esoterically perceive that and begin to break contracts, vows, agreements, and cut the energy cords so that we can live in both worlds simultaneously and not have pushback from the system that is constantly trying to siphon from us.
So in a community of people, in a society of people that are attached to their cell phone bills and their debt bills, what happens after they do the contract revocations? What happens after they stop voting? What's the replacement system? Let's say we have
sovereignty,
I don't know.
Self-sovereignty, self-learning, self-education, getting yourself out of the fog of war that the old belief has created within everyone, and truly coming to the seat of your own power, the seat of your own heart, that you are naturally a dreaming being when you were born, coming to some most basic esoteric truth, disassembling the dogmatic belief systems that are around us, educating people at the common ways of disassembling them without causing more trauma, removing the traumas within ourselves, I have said since the very beginning we're going to need 1 billion healers to assist us in the infinite amount of traumas that have been created on us by the system. Going forth and being of service to yourself through self-healing and self-nurturing. When you've had enough self-healing and self-nurturing, you give that process through education to others. Teach them how to self-heal, self-nurture. Step up into the physical field of being a hands-on healer, a teacher. And when you're ready to go beyond that, be the consciousness explorer, the one who can go to the edge of the reality and say, I have just expanded it, and I'm now building a mental constructed roadway for other people to go and experience it, because that is what our indigenous elders have been doing since time memorial.
Wow, it sounds like this is like a commercial for welcome to Rise Costa Rica, our 800 acres sovereign city of teachers and learners and teach learners, creating a better reality for all of us. This is great. Oh, Andrew, well, we're already over, but there's one question the one question I wanted to ask you, and this is what we talked about at the very end of our your reading with me. I said I want to hear more about this. Is you mentioned race amnesia. Mm-hmm. And I know this is something that's been coming strong for you. You're like just downloading this information right now, or a lightning rod downloading this information right now. So what's the one thing that we need to know about race amnesia and how to reclaim our memory as a human race?
Some time ago, beings of greater knowledge saw us as a commodity. And we were deeply connected to our own world, and they needed to discover ways to disconnect us from our oral teachings and histories of what our previous generations did. So they stepped in and did a variety of gene engineering processes that disconnected us from our natural ability to connect to the Akashic Records that everyone is entitled to at birth. A variety of other social and cultural altercations that perverted the masculine and feminine so they wouldn't naturally share, creating that soup of miscreation and misunderstanding between the commonality of people, saying that they don't have any common rhythm that allows common perception amongst them. And once that separation began, the bigger scale at disconnecting human beings from their individuated soul purpose, which was bringing in the industrialization and agricultural processes, until we led into wars that the victors wrote the history. And then thousands of years later, each generation has interpreted the previous generation, and the next generation interprets the next generation, until there is a skewment of what actually has happened. And there is nothing of relevance within what we know to 2,000 years ago, or 5,000, or 10,000, or 20,000 years ago. That is race amnesia. The truth of race amnesia really began about 26,000 years ago, when there was an active agenda to disconnect the masculine and feminine from the ability to naturally create in the spiritual world and choose what spirits were going to be within their body, removing the great teachings of the grandfathers and the grandmothers that understood the natural birthing process and how to have a sperm and an egg come together and have the spirit go within it, which was a spiritual technology that was understood in previous generations from those that understood it via the technology or those that understood it the spirituality. So race amnesia is the total disconnectment from what has happened in the truthness of our physical, oral, or taught history. And it has created a separation of
regain that memory.
It's created a people in reincarnation and incarnation at the same time, because we begin to learn some of the bigger truths. We aren't one single incarnating or reincarnating being. We could be 10 people on this world. And there are many times that I have people come to my session. There aren't one person. There's 6 or 7. 2 in reincarnation, 2 in the incarnation, 2 in the astral world, waiting for everything to come together. And that is what race amnesia has created, a true chaotic breakdown of the natural order of spiritual immigration and extrication from this world, about learning the greater experiences of light here. So without our true oral teachers and historians revealing what was in the local bubble of reality from 3,000 to 5,000 years ago, so it can be intertwined to the truth of our race history and allowance of archaeologists to tell the truth, so on and so forth, that separation has created a spiritual anxiety and a spiritual lie. So many people are born to create spiritual contracts to become XX or X and supporting a fallacy, which creates a different form of karma for that person, who may then have a massive awakening and then say, hey, everything that I knew about this one way was a fallacy, or was stepped in ignorance from previous generations who were just barbarians who wrote the history. That's race amnesia.
And how do we reclaim our memory?
That is what every generation since the dawn of the separation has thought. How do you
reinterpret? Like we're the generation to do it.
We are the generation that understands the duality and makes the choices. For those that want to stay in static duality, that the two worlds of dream and physical are separate, you can. And I will not step on your journey. I will not be in judgment or justice to your concepts. I will be a sacred, neutral, unentangled observer who shall not take on your charge or polarity, but I can still be in equal co-creation with you through my natural separation and understanding that I'm not a dual being. I'm a quadality being. I am here and in the dream world. I can fall asleep here and wake up in the dream world. I can fall asleep in the dream world and wake up here, or I can fall asleep and wake up somewhere else via the choice of manifestation or unmanifestation of this physical body. It is our inherent birthright to get to that apex of the hierarchical order who understands the manifestation of the physical body. The galactic and off-world beings don't all use physical technology to go from place to place. They understand the greater concepts of how to manifest and unmanifest the body and to travel between the stars. It'll be the consciousness exploration community.
When you talk about traveling between the stars, I had this lucid dream. It was very powerful that I could, within this lifetime, learn to turn myself into light, into photons,
yes,
and travel, and then re-manifest. Is there any real possibility of doing that?
Absolutely, 100%. You do it every day you fall asleep. It's inherent into our technology. It's a matter of entering the lucidity, having the fullness of our spirit, which knows thyself, this I am presence, to engage the super technology of communion and union, which is the DNA, which represents your 7 past generations and your 7 future generations in totalness of potential, so you can have the capability in the mighty I am presence to manifest or unmanifest the body at will and not have to engage the shared reality rules system of sleep paralysis and delta process to be in the dreaming body in full lucidity.
Does that answer your question?
You may need to unpack that one a little bit.
Can I do a session with you where you can teach me more about lucid dreaming and applying it to my health and athletic performance?
Absolutely. And I'm going to be teaching what's called Living the Mystical Life Daily, which actually does all this. And combined with that, it will be also Living the Mystical Life Nightly. There are a variety of techniques that I teach people of how to read the Akashic Record in the mass volume that I do. And there are a simplistic set of techniques that come in 8 meditations. Well, they're more meditation teachings that teach people how to process information, remain neutral, manifest direct within their lives, and then to take that thought construct in meditative creation and transfer it onto our dream world of lucidity. And I'll be teaching this event September 3rd and 4th in Seattle, Washington. And it's going to be a great, great way for people to truly learn the discernment process, the greater history of what's going on. I'll be talking about our galactic history, the founding beings, why we are DNA technology created for a group of founder beings that needed a precognitive direct manifestation workforce. So that is in the founding of our abilities. Literally, the model of the humans that we are is meant to be a precognitive direct manifestation species. So a founder being would come to us, and we would innately know that what pieces and parts they would need, and it would already be built before they arrived. That's innate within our natural birthright. And we can re-engage it by reconnecting ourselves to the fetus in the mother's womb, creating relationships, and then creating the spiritual pilgrimage and journeying process into what I call the pyramid of the self, knowing all the other versions of the self that dance in the patterns of shadows of the former selves until the light has manifested this I am presence to be here in the now, to make a set of spiritual choices with the blueprint of contracts that they came with, so they can interact with this reality as a whole in perfect spiritual positive hygiene, not exchanging pollution, not stepping on the journeys of others, and maintaining the common moral code of do no harm to any sentient kind while you're an unentangled observer. And all of those great manifestation powers can be directly available in the lucid mind or the semi-lucid mind.
Do you have online? Do you have a product, or is this only in person right now?
It'll be in person, but it'll be for sale once it's done. A lot of times we just record these and then we put them up afterwards. But you can go to my website, andrewbartzis.com. That's BARTZIS. And on the front page, a little pop-up will show for Living the Mystical Life Daily, where you'll get 2 free teachings that teach about spiritual photosynthesis, like I talked earlier, and then about the alignment of footsteps to magnetic north, south, east, and west, so that we can create a visualization process that connects us to the wholeness of our planet, which is sharing an electromagnetic field for us. Oftentimes this is known as the Schumann resonance. That's the background electromagnetic field of everything. And we as individual beings are a little variance within that. And that shows how we interact with the wholeness of the fabric of reality.
Wow, I feel like my higher self. I feel like my higher self is talking. Thank you. That is so cool. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for doing the work you're doing on the planet, 2 radio shows, all your courses. I've heard so much from you and about you and experienced so much, and the work you're doing is amazing. So thank you so much, and I'm excited to continue having you in my life as a part of my life. And
well, thank you for having me on. This has been one heck of a fun show. You guys, when I get people that have a lot of knowingness behind their questions, it allows me to expand the way I create the details in English, because there's the audience that is in fullness of potential, and the 2 of you have added a great volume to the fullness of potential, because each of your knowingnesses has a variety of angles that come back to asking the question, and at what scale can I answer the question?
Yeah.
Some questions are answered on the Earth scale, and there are a variety of other questions that have been answered at the universal scale, galactic scale, solar system scale, and Earth scale simultaneously. That is me speaking in the layers for those that can hear the meta concepts, the in-between concepts, the way I combine words in phrases that aren't normally used.
It has been an enlightening experience, my friend. So thank you so much for being here. And so for everyone that's listening, next week, Alex is going to be Burning Man. So he won't be here, but I will be here interviewing a surprise guest, which is going to be exciting. And I'm actually going to be having Jen Rohde, my lovely wife, as my co-host on this one. So it's going to be fun. Keep in touch, stay in touch, click the follow button. Thanks for listening on the show. We love you all. See you next week.
Each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge. It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious.
It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.